I'm Roberta Dowling, and I'm going to show you how to make some festive pasta doughs of different colors. And I'm starting out with a spinach pasta. I have a KitchenAid machine in front of me, and it has a pasta attachment. So if you own a KitchenAid, it's very easy to procure the attachment. The important thing you have to know is when you make pasta, you should know exactly what shape you want. Not necessarily the shape you're going to make a ravioli, but the width of the pasta dough. Because the way you feed the machine determines how the pasta will come out. And I'll try to give you an example of that. The other thing you should be aware of is that you have to, obviously, always keep your pasta dough covered. Because if it dries out, it'll get crusty and you won't be able to utilize it. So I'm going to put the machine on, and there are different rollers with different machines. Some go from 1 to 10, 10 being the narrowest opening, because as you feed the pasta dough into the machine, the rollers will close and get thinner and thinner and thinner. Or it could go from 10 to 1, 10 being the narrowest. So it really depends upon the machine. So at this point, I'm going to put it on a medium speed. I have a little flour here, and I'm going to put my dough into it. I'm going to just work it a teeny bit, and I'm going to feed it in a very wide opening. Now you see, say I wanted to make a ravioli and I didn't want to waste a lot of dough. This is pretty wide for a ravioli unless I made one huge sheet the width of the roller. But what I would want to do is maybe feed it this way. You see how I'm folding it over? So now when I fold it through the machine, I'm going to get a narrower strip. And then I'm going to decrease it, but it's still going to be narrower. So then as I get it to the consistency and thickness that I want, I'm going to then fill my pasta with my filling. It may be ricotta, it may be mascarpone, it could be a myriad of things. But you see, you would put your little lump of filling here, and then maybe even cover this over and cut your ravioli. But I didn't feed the machine, so I have this dough the width of this roller, which I could easily do, which I will show you now, is that I'm feeding it this way. So that when I now feed the machine, and I've got to make sure I got a wide opening. You see how it's coming out wider rather than narrower? And I'm just going to decrease my rollers so that I end up with some nice strips that are nice and wide. I could cut this strip, square this off, cut it into little squares, and then cut it into fettuccine, and I'd have green spinach fettuccine. And of course it would be the same for any pasta whatsoever. Every once in a while, you want to take your strip of dough, and you want to make sure that if it's not too moist, so you just dust it ever so lightly with a little bit of flour, and before you throw it through again, not a lot. You just want to make sure that it doesn't get gummy and it'll just slide through ever so nicely. I'm going to come down another little notch, and I'm going to feed my machine. And you see how that's a perfectly nice wide strip. And now that this pasta dough is rolled out, it's ready to be cut into a specific shape. Well, now we have our beautiful strips of pasta laid out, and I'm going to show you how to do some interesting shapes. This is a Christmas tree, and I think I'm going to start with a really dark green kale pasta, and just basically cut out a tree. And you can see that usually it comes out quite readily. Now, obviously, to make a ravioli, you need a backing as well. So I'm going to cut out another one, exactly the same. Now this is something I'm going to show you that I kind of came up with in working with these pastas, is I just take a little pinch of pasta dough, and I'm going to take this garlic press and make sure that it's clean because I've used it before. And what I'm going to do is stick a little bit of pasta dough in the press, and then I'm going to basically squeeze it. And you see what I get coming out? Something that looks like pine needles. I'm going to take a little bit of my flour and basically turn it upside down, and it kind of looks like a rag now. You want to make sure that there's enough flour before you trim it on it so that they don't stick together and bunch up. And you see that? That's all nicely coated with flour. Now I'll take my knife, and I basically am going to just cut it off. And now I have little strands to put on my Christmas tree. This is time consuming, and if you have lots of patience and you like working with crafts, then you should love working with pasta craft. You know, the possibilities are endless. So I've started this Christmas tree. It's not quite complete. It has a little star on top, and the star is made with corn pasta, a puree of corn, and it has little dots on it at the points. It's made with squash. The base, or the top of the tree and the base, are made with a spinach pasta, and I chose to put little hearts on it so that you have to have a variety of cookie cutters. I don't know whether you can see this, but I'm just going to quickly cut out a little heart, and you could see that little heart in my hand. And I will obviously with a tweezer dip it in a little bit of egg white, and then put it on the tree as a little garnish, little hearts. The pasta that I put through the garlic press comes out looking very much like a pine needle. So what I do here is basically work these little pine needles, and it looks white at first because it has flour on it so that it doesn't stick. But once you roll the whole thing, which means you coat it with an egg wash, the flour dissipates and goes away. So I'm going to just put these little pine needles on. Once you have all your tops decorated, then they are ready for filling. And basically what you do is that you would take the bottom and you would cover the perimeter of the shape, whether it's a wreath or a tree, with a little bit of this egg wash. And then you would fill it with filling in the middle, and very carefully seal the top to the bottom, or the bottom to the top, whatever, and freeze them. These are time consuming, so obviously they take a while to prepare, and one of the best ways to deal with them is to freeze them. And in fact, many times as you're working, if the dough starts to get a little too warm, I might throw the dough or a part of the cutout dough into the freezer, and it quickly, because it's thin, will chill up and become workable and more malleable to work with. So that's it.